How's it going, everybody? I've got some more Magic for you today with an Orzhov Sacrifice deck. This deck archetype has become very popular since Sephiroth came out, the Sacrifice or Aristocrat style black-white deck. This is just my version of it. I've kind of put it together a little bit different than what you would normally see, I imagine. I opted against running things like Dewdrop Cure and Raise from the Past. Mostly just because I wanted to do something different. So in my version, we do still have things like Nesting Bot, Infestation Sage, Snarling Gorehound. We've got Voice of Victory, which I think is a really important card in this deck. Bartolome, which is essential in this deck in my opinion. And Ilkor, the Sadistic Pilgrim. Another really good card. You could swap this one here or there with a few other options, but the Death Touch feature of this is really important for it in my opinion, so I really like using this one specifically. Then other than that, we do have Sephiroth, obviously the main card that kind of functions this deck, or has resurged this deck. Really fantastic. Obviously a 3/3. Whenever it enters, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw a card. Whenever another creature dies, whether it's yours or your opponent's, the opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And if this has happened for the 4th time, then on a single turn, then you will transform Sephiroth, which is very easy to do. If you have just 1 or 2 other creatures on the battlefield and then you attack him with a Voice of Victory, sacrifice, let's say for example, we have Nesting Bot, Voice of Victory, Sephiroth, and Final Vengeance in our hand. You can attack with Voice of Victory, get the 2 tokens that will die, play Sephiroth, which will kill the Nesting Bot. You can sacrifice the Nesting Bot for it. That already gives you 3 triggers per turn, because 1 from the Nesting Bot and 2 from the tokens that disappear. And then you can use Final Vengeance, making use of the Servo token, to create 4 sacrifices in a single turn for literally only 4 mana. And then there you go. You've got a flip of Sephiroth potentially on the very first turn that he comes out. We've got something else that I've done different in this deck that I'm pretty excited about, is the Knight Errant of Eos. I originally saw Sloth, I believe, use the Knight Errant in his Sephiroth deck, and it seemed like such a good idea because this lets you kind of keep fueling your hand. It lets you kind of dig for Sephiroth, and so I did want to include it in my version as well. Not to mention having a bigger creature that isn't able to be hit by things like what is it? The enchantment that locks down, temporary lockdown. There we go. Something that doesn't get hit by temporary lockdown along with Sephiroth is really nice, because that means you still have a decent board presence if they're trying to slurp up all your little creatures. And then aside from that, I am using Agatha's Soul Cauldron because it is such a good synergy in this deck. Instead of utilizing Raise the Past, we can just make our creatures be added to our remaining creatures in 1/1 counters. But the really big benefit here is if you end up with a Bartolome in your graveyard and hit it with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, then any of your creatures with 1/1 counters on it get the ability to sacrifice your other creatures and get stronger. So you can play Sephiroth, potentially even sacrificing a Bartolome, and pick it up with the Soul Cauldron onto Sephiroth, and then use Sephiroth to sacrifice your other creatures, making it bigger and then also triggering its other ability to gain life, your opponent loses life, and potentially flip it. So, fantastic combination there, in my opinion. We do have a sideboard. I have used this deck in best of 3, and it does function just fine. I think this archetype of deck is still going to struggle right now, because the decks are so good. You're going up against a lot of Reanimator style decks, especially right now with Yuna and Arden being so popular. Agatha's Soul Cauldron also helps with that, because it means you have a main board option for helping you get rid of your opponent's graveyard. So that also helps with Omniscience as well, so really good in all those fronts. But we've got Requisition Raid. This is fantastic if you're running up against artifact or enchantments you need to get rid of. For example, if you're running up against a Quarry Cutter deck, this is a good sideboard in card. We've got Duresses for the control matchups, Ghost Vacuums if you need to get rid of even more graveyard synergistic cards, like if you're up against a graveyard deck and you don't think your 1 Soul Cauldron's keeping up because it is a legendary artifact, you can only have 1 of them out on the battlefield at a time. You could sideboard in 2 Ghost Vacuums instead of 2 of these Soul Cauldrons, or even put them in additionally if you really think it's necessary. We've got Destroy Evil, primarily a Destroy Enchantment card in the sideboard. However, it can also get rid of things of toughness 4 or greater. Most of the time when I sideboard this card in, it's up against some kind of a deck that's running either Beza, because this is really good for getting rid of Beza when it comes in, as well as enchantment, so this is good against those Una decks and things as well. And then we also have Get Lost for similar reasons. Get Lost does allow us to hit enchantments, as well as creatures and planeswalkers, so it's really good removal for if you need it. We do have Go for the Throat and Final Vengeance in the main board. However, you can't hit planeswalkers with either of these, and Go for the Throat doesn't help against artifacts, so Get Lost sometimes becomes much more relevant in that regard. And then also, if you're needing to draw more cards or gain more life, say up against like a mono red or a Quarry Cutter deck, Enduring Innocence can help a lot. It stays on the battlefield and keeps drawing you cards after it comes in. Everything except for these two creatures trigger it, so everything but Sephiroth and the Core Knight, Knight Errant. So very, very good in this deck as well. You could even potentially sideboard out these if you needed to, though I never have, because these are really important cards in the deck in my opinion. We do have a few copies of Midgar. This can slow you down if you get it in your opening hand. However, it does lend towards the sacrifice abilities that we're talking about and helps you draw more cards, so I actually think Midgar goes fantastically in this deck. The other lands are pretty standard for what you would imagine in this kind of deck. I'm not running any of the life gain lands, and I'm not running any of the fortresses, anything like that. I do have a few Amonkhet Raceways. We do have speed in this deck from the Nesting Bot and the Raceway, so you could potentially get out a Knight Errant or a Sephiroth and attack with it with haste thanks to the Raceway, so I like that in it as well, though you could opt out with this since I'm not using any of the Zur speed card that allows you to discard or sacrifice a creature to scry or surveil. I'm not sure which one it is, but I didn't feel like it was as good in this deck as having Bartolome with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, because it only allows you to sacrifice one creature per turn. So that's why I didn't put it in here. There is also Gas Guzzler, which you could do, but its sacrifice requires you to pay mana to sacrifice a creature. So again, I just thought it was more important to have a full set play set of Bartolome in this deck rather than to mix and match with some of those. But anyway, we will go ahead and start getting into games. I'm going to be playing best of one like usual, going for 3 wins. Hopefully you guys enjoy this deck. Okay, we get to go first. The land looks totally fine, so I'll keep. I think keeping an opening hand that has good land is what matters the most in this deck, in my opinion. Do I want a Concealed Courtyard? Honestly, no. This is probably going to be a Quarry Cutter deck or something along those lines, a VB deck. Storm Chaser's talent is obvious. Okay, let's go ahead and go Bleachbone Verge, Infestation Sage, another Infestation Sage after that most likely. Sephiroth's a great draw. May use a counter spell here, the 1-drop one. Don't really care if they do. Okay, first lightning on my Snarling Gorehound. That's a bit disappointing. But I really wasn't going to be attacking this turn anyway. Not with the core, because I figured they'd have a 1-drop. That's a really good card, actually, the Planisphere. Yep, you go ahead, bud. Now, I'm sure they've saved their counter spell for Sephiroth. First lightning on the core, that's a bit disappointing. Hardly the end of the world, though. Got another Sephiroth, which isn't ideal. Okay, another Storm Chaser's talent. We'll do block. Hardly matters. I'll just go here. Lightning Strike on Sephiroth does mean it dies, which is too bad. Yeah, so we're pretty much just completely screwed, unfortunately. Let's go ahead, get rid of this fella, get another Infestation Sage out. This is a strange build for this deck for sure. Let's try and make sure we kill one. They didn't play any land, so I figured I could get away with that one. It'd be really nice if we could get a land for a Soul Cauldron here. We did not, but that's a good card too if we can get it down. Yeah, you go ahead. Obviously, I'm not blocking. Ill-timed Explosion might wipe the board here. Okay. Sadly, Sephiroth goes away, but we do get some triggers from the creatures dying. We will get to prevent any more shenanigans on our turn, which is very nice. I do think this is an interesting deck. It's not just your cut and paste Corey Cutter deck, so that's pretty interesting to see.
If you want a better world, then fight for it.
See, we got some creatures on our opponent's end here, so let's go ahead and start with that. Okay, and then our opponent gave up. I think that's entirely premature, but I guess we were stabilizing more than they expected us to. They had so much good stuff here, though, and I was going to be able to recur a lot of the things in my graveyard, hopefully even getting a Bartolome soon. Yeah, I don't think they should have scooped, but that's just basic mono-red player mentality. I actually think they had a really interesting deck here, and I commend them on trying to do something slightly different, because the Astrologian's Planisphere is a fantastic card, and you don't normally see Kaito in this deck, especially not this one, which is really interesting. I am so fucking sick of Storm Chaser's talent, so no praise on that one. But otherwise, this was an interesting deck. I actually think it's cool, so good on them. Anyway, let's go ahead and see what we can get for Game 2. Okay, opponent goes first, which is a little disappointing, but we've got okay land, so I think I'll probably keep this and give it a shot. Good removal in hand, good plays. Didn't really feel like we needed all three of these, but you know, whatever. Okay, this opponent's deck is land-themed. Probably not even going to get to use our final Vengeance Center. I'd be surprised if we do. Because it's sorcery speed, and any creature is probably going to be the land creature here. Oh, well, there's Storm Chaser's talent, so maybe something. Not really drawing anything good here, though, either, which is unfortunate. Could really use like a Midgar or something just to get some card draw. It seems like a weird card to fetch, but it does let him get more land out, I suppose. Really wish we had a Sephiroth or something here just to get some card draw. If I keep getting nothing but land, we'll be totally flooded out. Sacrificing a land to discover. Got an Aetherize, that's interesting, I suppose. He doesn't have enough land up to use it. Though I suppose I'll have to be somewhat careful going forward then for that reason. I'm gonna use his Storm Chasers to get something back from the graveyard, potentially. Okay, we got a Bartolome, which is pretty nice. Yep, there's the Aetherize, which I don't mind at all. I was actually waiting for it. Kind of sift through our deck here a little bit now, finally. Let's get Bartolome down. No land, please. Alright, so that's totally fine. Got the Aetherize out of their hand, got to play out our entire hand, essentially. Did mean we didn't get any damage that turn, so that's a bit unfortunate. He's going for Doppelgang on his Storm Chaser's talent and Spelunkings. So he's going to get a couple of Otters, which aren't really a huge threat. Another Storm Chaser's talent. Really going big with those then. I think that was a pretty lackluster hit on everything he could have done there, though. We got next. I don't hate voice, so I guess we'll keep it. Let's go ahead and start getting rid of some of this. It's fine. And I'm okay with getting rid of one more. See what our opponent does next. They can get Doppelgang back, so they could potentially get really annoying by recurring that over and over. Could have another Aetherize potentially. That doesn't really bother me much. Soul Cauldron's not bad. That could actually seriously help a lot. And then we'll make sure he can't do anything on our turn now. May have to use Soul Cauldron to be on the defensive, getting rid of his graveyard cards. We'll see if he plays out any this time that I have to worry about. Overlord of the Hauntwoods. Okay, big creature. Alright, now it's our turn. I'm sure he loves seeing the Soul Cauldron come down. Ooh, go for the throat's nice. Let's not worry too much here, just attack him with the Gorehound, I think. Just want to make sure he can't get that doppelgang back from the graveyard. Yep, so now we don't gotta worry about that anymore, which is fantastic. He could bounce everything all back to our hand again now, potentially, though, which will be annoying. But I still think it was worth it to get rid of that doppelgang for sure. Getting back his stock up, that's actually a good play in my opinion. Don't need Bartolome. Don't need a Bleach Bone. Okay, we got the win here. I don't think they should have scooped. Again, this seems really foolish to me, just like in our game one. Had so many options here. Could bounce everything back to our hand. You know, has stock up, has these to start making even more tokens for them. So, my wins right now, I think, are kind of gimmies from the opponent. But, you know, play better, I guess. Just don't suck. But anyway, I'll go ahead and get into the next match. So let's see here what they were actually facing. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so yeah, they would have died here. Never mind. But it's still... I guess that's just my imagination on it, to be honest. Because I could also grab up something from mine or his graveyard, probably the Overlord, pump up one of these with the Soul Cauldron, then eat these. So yeah, he was dead either way. But anyway, good game 2 win. Let's see game 3. Okay, we've got good looking land here. Opponent goes first, which is a little sad, but I like this because we can start Gorehound, go into Sadistic Pilgrim or Bartolome. So yeah, I think this is totally good. Good opening. Looks like we're probably up against something similar, maybe a Mardu version of this. They could be playing Mobilize, which I do have a deck of that as well. I plan on uploading later for Sephiroth. Zahur from our opponent. I didn't include it in mine, it just didn't seem worth it. What do we want to go with here? I think we'll go with 4 Sadistic Pilgrim. Ooh, that's really nice too, a Knight Errant. So we've got some interesting plays here for sure. Interesting, I didn't expect an NT. Do I block here? I think I do. Nah, let's try not for now. It's probably the wrong play. Probably should block and get rid of that right now, but let's just try with what we've got. Because I want to do this. Let's go ahead, get one more creature down. What we got on top here? I don't need land. Not right now. So we could play one more creature. And still go with the Knight Errant. Because this taps for the white we need, if I'm not mistaken. No caves. Don't need another Gorehound. Let's play Knight Errant. Definitely want Sephiroth, and I think Infestation Sage is good. Now I wouldn't mind a land after I just tossed a couple, but we'll see how it goes. Brand from our opponent, not bad. I'm definitely blocking with the Knight Errant this time, I don't care at all. maybe doing a Reanimator package. It looks like they're playing some form of Mardu Legends, which is actually pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they don't realize, but I totally just played that to get my Sephiroth. I wasn't that... I'm totally fine with blocking there. And then they're losing the Valgavoth. So, looks like they're stuck on 2 land, which is beneficial for us. I will say this type of deck struggles with land. Ooh, we did get a land. That is awesome. So let's go Infestation Sage. And then I'm going to immediately go for Sephiroth next. I do want that, actually, because them not being able to play things on my turn is fantastic. I'm going to get rid of the Infestation Sage because I want a flyer. Don't want land. Don't want land. And then, how do I feel here? Maybe I attack with both of these and see what happens? Okay, so we're going to flip Sephiroth right here then, which is actually fantastic. Let's get Bartolome in the graveyard. Now, Agatha's Soul Cauldron guarantees that we just win. So yeah, our opponent's boned now. They could have removal for Sephiroth, I suppose, but I have the emblem now, so nothing he does really matters. So her's totally useless. Is he going to sacrifice a creature or something? Okay. Well, we're just going to win here, and this is going to be pretty fun. Go ahead and go here so that he has to try and answer it right now. He can't. So yeah, now we're not even going to be bothered. I'll keep it, I guess. I don't care. Yeah, now he can't even do anything. Is there anything else I could do here? It doesn't look like it, so I'm going to go ahead and pass and see what our opponent has next. Yep, you're fine to hit me. I don't care. Got you a land. Yeah. So there's a good Game 3 win. I think this was easily the best match out of all of them. So if you stayed till this end, you got to see the really good one. Might have been able to get lethal on that last turn. I don't know. There's always the possibility. So for example, instead of going for the Soul Cauldron to add the 1/1 counter here, I could have used the Amonkhet Raceway to give haste to the Voice of Victory, attacked with everything, then sacrificed everything, and I would have hit lethal that way. So maybe that would have been better. I was just swinging in and doing what I wanted. I got a full handful of cards here now and stuff, and this was going great. But no removal from our opponent pretty much meant they were totally dead. They should not have blocked when I attacked with creatures. I intentionally attacked with a Death Touch creature and a creature I knew that they could block to kill so that I could get 2 more triggers for Sephiroth in that turn. They just fed it to me. But anyway, that'll be it for this video. Hopefully you guys like this. This is just a little bit more of a creative, different take on a Sephiroth Orzhov deck, Sephiroth Sacrifice deck. So hopefully you guys like it. Thank you for joining me.